Hello and welcome to my video, Lesson 1.8, Preservation of Equality. So if we look at the word preservation, we can see that it is preserving things. So we just looked at equality in the last video, and now we're looking at preserving that equality. Well, let's say we have an equality, like in the last video, 3 times 4 equals 4 times 3. This is an equality, this is true, this is the commutative property from the last video. Well, if we look at preserving this equality, there are a whole bunch of things that we can do to it while still keeping it preserved. Basically, the rule is, whatever you do to one side, plus 3, you have to do to the other side, plus 3. Or, if we do it over here, so we do minus 3, let's try that. So, 3 times 4 minus 3 equals 4 times 3 minus 3. As long as you do the same thing to both sides, it's allowed. And let's show it all the different possibilities of that. Whoops. 3 times 4 equals 4 times 3. Okay, so we could multiply as well. So as long as you do it to both sides, it's allowed. Or we can divide, and as long as it's done to both sides, it's allowed. And we can do that with any number. As long as you're doing it to both sides, it's okay. So preservation of equality just means that if you do it to one side, you have to do it to the other. Now, what I mean by doing it to the other side is we have this lovely little equal sign. So it has to be done to one side of the equal sign and to the other side. And not just one part of one side, but the entire side. So for example, we can have an equation that shows up like this. Maybe we have 3 plus 4, and on the other side we have 4 plus 3. Well, remember, this is perfectly equal, perfectly allowed. Well, what if we multiply by 3 on that side? We multiply by 3 on this side. Well, because of BEDMAS, we know that this is going to simplify to 12, and this is 3. So, and the other side would be 4 plus, and this would be 9. So if we got the answer for that, this would be 13, and this would be 15. Well, these are not equal. They are not equal. So this is not preserved. So what you need to do instead is you need to do it to the entire side. So if you're only doing it to one part of the side, it does not count. So let's show how we can do that to the entire side in this case. If we have brackets, now we are doing it to the entire side. So for example, if we simplified this with brackets, this would be 7. This would be 7, then you'd multiply by 3, then you'd multiply by 3, and 7 times 3 is the same as 7 times 3. Either side would be 21, and that would be preserved. Alright, so that is preservation of equality. Let's just quickly go into how you can find, you can solve for a variable, a letter, using this rule of preservation of equality. So for example, we could have, here are a couple of simple cases, and then we'll do 2 more complicated versions. So you could have x plus 3 equals 8. And you're asked to solve for x. Well, to preserve the equality, but yet move stuff around, we need to just move the numbers to one side and the letters to the other. So what we want to do is take opposite operators. So if it's adding, opposite is subtracting. So let's try that. If you do it to one side, you have to do it to the other side. So plus 3 minus 3 is 0. So plus 0, we don't even have to write it. So x just on that side. Now 8 minus 3 is 5. So x equals 5. Alright, let's try another one. Let's use a this time. A minus 4 equals 16. So what we need to do is do the opposite operator, which in this case is adding, and adding 4. So once we've done that, those two cancel. We're left with plus 0, or in this case you don't even have to write it, and that's the whole point of opposite operators, is that you don't have to write it. And so A would be equal to 20. Okay, so that's adding, subtracting. Now let's try multiplying. B times, or actually we're going to write it like this, 8b, which is the same thing as 8 times b, equals 48. Alright, and so what you're going to have to do is find the opposite of multiplying. Well, if this is multiplying in here, you need to find the opposite, so that's dividing. So you have to do it to both sides, and if you do it to both sides, you can cancel the 8's. B equals 6. So the reason why it cancels is 8 divided by 8 is 1, and if you do 1 times anything, it's just whatever it was before. So if we wanted to, we could write it as 1 times b, but it's just extra work, so we may as well just write b. That's why we have that. So b equals 6. Alright, and now for division, we have c divided by 5 equals, let's make that a little bit nicer, divide by 5 equals 6. Okay, so if you have that, then you have to find the opposite of division. Well, the opposite of division is multiplying by that same number, multiplying by 5 in this case. The 5 and the 5 cancel, because 5 divided by 5 is 1. And if you multiply by 1, it does nothing. So now you're just left with c equals 6 times 5 is 30. So what we've just shown is that the opposite of division is multiplication. The opposite of multiplication is division. So that makes sense, because those are opposites of each other. Subtraction, the opposite of subtraction is addition, and the opposite of addition is subtraction. So those are all the simple versions. Those are all one-step equations. Now let's do one more difficult question. So we could have a question that has 3y plus 2 equals 17. Okay, so that's our equation. Now, what you have to realize is if you're doing opposite operators, there are two possibilities here. We can either subtract by 2, or we can divide by 3. We don't know yet which. The reason how we can decide which one is because when we use opposite operators, we also use opposite bedmass, which is order of operations. So opposite operators, opposite bedmass. So which one do we do first? Well, you can see that subtraction comes before division. So we have to do subtraction first. Okay, so let's do that one first. Ooh, I've got rid of the y. So subtract by 2. If you do it to one side, you have to do it to the other. Those cancel out because we have plus 0, and that doesn't matter. So 3y equals 17, or equals 15, sorry. Then you divide by 3 to cancel out with the multiplying by 3. And you do it to both sides. 3 divided by 3 is 1. 1 times y is, you may as well just put y. Now 15 divided by 3 is 5. So you can see here that you can use these same steps in order to find the answer for a two-step equation. Opposite operators, opposite bedmass, and you can find the answer to any of these types of questions. And it all comes from preservation of equality. I hope this video helps, and good luck.